Welcome to my channel, and today I wanted to go ahead and take a moment to talk about Hiya toys and the year so far. So we're not going to waste any more time, we're going to get straight to the point on this. So since about December, Hiya has been delivering at least 5 action figures to us. Godzilla 2014, Shimu, King Ghidorah 91, Godzilla 91, and Godzilla Evolved. Each of these figures has faced a slight calendar delay, some more significant than others. But hey, a majority of these action figures on this list have actually made it out, with the exception of Godzilla 91 Atomic Breath variant, which has still yet to have any information announced regarding it. I feel like that's probably going to be around the corner. Hopefully that will be the next action figure to keep this line just rolling a little bit further. And at this point, this confirms we have 2 Godzillas, 2 King Ghidorahs, a Mecha King Ghidorah, and that causes me to speculate, will we see another Mecha King Ghidorah variant down the line? Because I'm under the firm belief that we probably will. Now, before I go any further, I want to kind of swing back to the Godzilla 91 figure and talk about that. For anybody that has missed it and any news regarding that, back in May it was announced that Hiya had optimized the Godzilla 91 head sculpt after receiving mixed opinions on head sculpt. Now, in my opinion, this is a great move on Hiya's end to listen to the customers and the complaints. Most stores like INS Hobby is offering the Godzilla 91 figure for sale now, but with the new head sculpt shipping at a later date. Other options allow the action figure and the new head to ship together, and this is what I've opted to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about my personal speculation and what I expect from Hiya toys when it comes to the Godzilla Atomic Breath 91 variant. I would anticipate that probably after we get the new head sculpts for the Godzilla 91 regular variant, then we probably will hear some information regarding the packaging, the box art for the Atomic Breath variant, and go on from there. So I wouldn't expect to see no further delays for it. I mean, possibly maybe around like August for the action figure. If we're lucky, late July, but there's been no real confirmation. And we still need to get an actual new calendar for upcoming releases, because as of now, everything that was announced back in April has came out, and it's just one action figure we're waiting on, and it's just the Atomic Breath variant. So now what I want to go ahead and do is talk about the initial announcements, and I want you to keep in mind, this is all initially from Hiya's social media pages, and a lot of these don't reflect the actual release dates, and I want to go ahead and talk about what I'm speculating is going to possibly happen, or what updates we've had over the last few weeks. So please keep in mind that this is a fluctuating and changing subject, so within 3 to 2 weeks we might have some new information that will be coming out. But for now, let's continue. First of all, GXK Kong. Now this one was actually unmentioned during the last update. It was supposed to come out during Q1 2025, now obviously that has long passed. And this is actually one of the action figures I'm most anticipating. I've always asked, where's the Scar King? But we know there's a Kong from the movie Godzilla x Kong coming out. And this Kong just looked head and shoulders a lot better than the previous King Kongs that Hiya had released. Now we also have Godzilla 2000, Godzilla GMK. More about this action figure in a moment. Both of these action figures were slated for Q2 of 2025, and this effectively ends at the end of this month. Move along on the calendar, we were supposed to have Godzilla 2002, Kong Beast Club, Heat Ray Godzilla GVK, and MECHAGODZILLA 2 was all Q3. Now all the previous action figures I am hyped for, but I gotta say the one that I'm probably most hyped for has gotta be that GVK Godzilla 2019, and also this might be a little bit biased of me to say this due to the fact that I'm a big fan of the sculpt and design of the Godzilla 2019 design in the first place, but also it's these LED lights that has me extremely sold on this action figure, and to see if this is executed perfectly. And we already know that they've optimized the sculpt of the Godzilla 2002 and MECHAGODZILLA 2, which definitely needed it, because while I feel like both these figures looked alright, specifically the MECHAGODZILLA 2, there was something about this action figure that was just off, and I can't put my finger on it. And Godzilla 2002 needs some work. I'm just ultimately hoping that the work put into these action figures is well worth it, and we get something that is rewarding in the end for waiting. Because I would have loved to have these action figures now, but unfortunately that's just not how it's going to work, and we're not going to probably see them in Q3. I could possibly see things pushed back probably till like the end of the year. And there's a big part of me that actually is thinking we're probably going to at least get maybe like 4 more Hiya action figures maybe for the year. That's just my speculation, not certain about that, but it'd be nice if we could slip in 1 extra one and make it 5. The initial announcements for Q4 was SCYLLA, King Ghidorah 2019 V2, Atomic Breath Godzilla 2014. As I talked about, there is a lot of hype for me for SCYLLA due to the fact that this is one of those monsters that I felt like was kind of obsolete, and I didn't think we were going to see any actual kaiju from Godzilla King of the Monsters outside King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, and Godzilla the Big Four. But to see SCYLLA has one has me very hopeful for everyone else on the roster. And for the Godzilla 2014 Atomic Breath variant, I will say that I'm hoping that this one has a better head sculpt, and this would kind of make people kind of question, if they do a better head sculpt for the Atomic Breath variant, then what about a re-release for the regular 2014 that was released previously? Because that one I felt like had the biggest problems, and is probably one of the action figures that, if you've seen my review, I loved it, but my biggest issue I had with it was those teeth were just, they could have been better, and it's sad to see the action figure was a big miss. So we cross the line and we go into 2026, and Q1 slated is Godzilla 2000 Atomic Breath variant. Like I've said, expect this to change. I've already talked about previous action figures that are still waiting for release dates, but for now, as far as we know, 2026, Q1, that could mean anything for the first part of next year, but it just seems like this is one of those action figures that might get kind of reshuffled in the mix of things, and that's just my belief at the moment. So now that we're talking about 2026, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the newer upcoming releases that have been announced. And the newest one that was just unveiled to us is the GHIDORAH Battle Damage variant 1991. This is one of those action figures that I will more than likely grab. Probably my first overall impression is this figure just slightly darker, or is it just the lighting in this picture that they took? But to me, it just seems like the scales almost have like a black wash over them, given the illusion that Godzilla has battled the King Ghidorah like seen in the movie, and uses atomic breath on King Ghidorah during the battle. That said, I'm going to go ahead and assume and call it, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, it's more than likely we're going to go ahead and see a Mecha King Ghidorah that is battle damaged. And that is something that I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get it or not. I'm going to have to kind of see the final results of what we're getting, and even the regular Mecha King Ghidorah in the first place. But it's just one of those action figures I'm kind of like, say, up in the air, just because I have so many King Ghidorahs in my collection. And if you missed any details of when that Hiya Toys Mecha King Ghidorah is coming out, well, the good news is for you, it's coming out next year. Expect that action figure for Q2 2026. This is the slated release date. And if we do happen to get a battle damaged one, it will definitely be further down the line in 2026. Now, another one of our newer announced action figures is our second variant of the Godzilla Evolved Heat Ray Edition. This one really gets my interest going due to the fact that the announcement will also feature not just an atomic breath piece, but upgraded double joint structure neck joint, which in turn will give us more range for the poses. We'll also get thicker dorsal fins, and then finally we have an adjustment to the body proportions, which is unknown if this is referring to just the scaling issues the main release had, or simply something else. My personal belief, this is a rescale, and it kind of makes us wish that they had done this on the initial release, even if we had to face another delay. And now let's swing back and talk about the Godzilla GMK. Now obviously just the other day we just had announced to us that we are getting another variant, Atomic Breath variant, so at this point you can just go ahead and boldly assume if we're going to get one action figure of a certain Godzilla figure, there will be another Atomic Breath variant. Not exactly a new business practice when it comes to action figures, you see this commonly everywhere, so it's not shocking that Hiya Toys is going to take part in this for the Godzilla action figures. I am going to be one of those collectors that's going to say that I am here for it, however though I'm going to be picky and choosy about which particular ones that I want to get, but we are getting this GMK Godzilla in Q1 2026. That's just the expected release date, and this kind of gives me a better idea potentially of when we might see the standard release, so possibly around November or December, which is something I would hope at least we get that action figure before the year ends. But as I've mentioned, there is still a lot to kind of go through. I mean, I think this may be like at least 10 action figures, 10 plus action figures that we're still waiting on, and we still got to wait and see how these figures are going to fit in, because I just don't see them all fitting in before the end of the year. It just doesn't seem like a realistic possibility. Now, one thing I think we all can agree on is one of Hiya's biggest Achilles tendons has got to be the fact that they just announced an action figure, and then for that, like, time comes and goes and it doesn't quite deliver the release date that was expected. Usually it's a slated release, but these are some of those things that it's pretty far off though. In fact, you know, you look at Godzilla Evolved, which was supposed to come out at the end of last year and is just now coming out as I'm filming this video, and that figure was announced in April of 2024, so that's just a little idea of how bad Hiya has been when it comes to announcing these release dates, and I do think that they should kind of pump the brakes just a little bit. This is just some honest criticism rather than just saying every move they're making is awesome, because I do think that they need to just make sure they're certain about when certain action figures are coming out. Plus, another variable that needs to be taken into consideration is the sheer fact that sometimes the prototypes of these action figures differ from the actual action figure that comes out, and when people see the final product, they get pretty critical. And Hiya Toys is definitely trying to listen. I don't believe there's going to be cases where you're going to be able to appease every collector, because there's going to be flaws with these action figures, but you want to minimize that to the best you can. And just certain variables like to also cause further delays when they hear feedback from the fans, and it becomes a little overwhelming to the point to where they can't deny what people are saying and that there are problems with the quality of these action figures. For the most part, I don't believe that the quality of these action figures has dipped extremely downwards. There was some criticism about the evolved Godzilla, which I'm still waiting to see for myself. Personally, I do see some of the issues from what basically Hiya had unveiled, but some of the in-hand products though, it seems like that it wasn't as bad as what people made it out to be. And I want to see it for myself, and recently for these action figures, I've seen some action figures that were basically really good, like King Ghidorah 91. And then after that you had Shimu, which was an amazing sculpt. My personal criticism with the Shimu action figure was just the upper jaw teeth. Outside that though, it was a phenomenal action figure, and I think it was a grand debut for Shimu when it comes to the Exquisite Basics line.